A beggar girl with a baby in her arms approached a millionaire who was dining alone, and with tearful eyes she whispered, "Sir, can we have what's left of your plate?" She was starving and had clearly not eaten for days. What the millionaire did surprised everyone. If this story interested you, subscribe to our channel, don't forget to like this video, and tell us which city you're watching us from. We'll keep going. The morning sun barely penetrated the grime-covered windows of apartment 4B in the most forgotten corner of the Bronx. 11-year-old Emma Reynolds adjusted the thin blanket around 6-month-old Noah, whose tiny fingers clutched at her worn sweater. The baby wasn't hers, not by blood, but in every way that mattered, he had become her responsibility. "Is he still sleeping?" Martha Reynolds called weakly from the adjoining room, her voice strained from the effort. "Yes, Grandma, I just fed him the last of the formula," Emma replied, not mentioning that she had diluted it more than recommended to make it last longer. Martha Reynolds, once a vibrant kindergarten teacher, now spent most days confined to her bed, her heart condition worsening with each passing month. The small pension check that arrived on the 3rd of each month was their only lifeline, until last week when Martha had been tricked at the ATM by someone pretending to help. Now, their account was empty, and the next check was still 2 weeks away. Emma gently placed Noah in the makeshift crib, a drawer lined with their softest towels, and walked to her grandmother's bedside. At 68, Martha looked 20 years older, her face etched with the pain of her failing heart and the burden of raising her granddaughter after her daughter, Emma's mother, had abandoned them both when Emma was just 3. "I'm going to find us something to eat today," Emma declared, her blue eyes showing a determination that belied her young age. Martha reached for Emma's hand. "The church pantry." "They're closed until Thursday," Emma interrupted gently, and Mrs. Wilson next door said she couldn't help anymore. Mrs. Wilson had been the one who'd brought Noah to them 4 months ago, claiming his mother was her niece who needed emergency medical treatment. She promised to return in a week. That was the last they'd seen of her, and despite their own struggles, neither Emma nor Martha could bear the thought of calling social services. Noah had become family. "I'm going to Manhattan," Emma announced. "Manhattan? That's too far, too dangerous for a child your age." "I'm not a child anymore, Grandma," Emma said with a sad smile that revealed the truth of her words. At 11, she managed their medication schedule, cooked what little food they had, and cared for an infant, responsibilities that had stripped away her childhood long ago. 3 hours later, Emma emerged from the subway onto the gleaming streets of the Upper East Side, Noah securely fastened to her chest with a makeshift carrier fashioned from an old bedsheet. The contrast between her neighborhood and this one struck her immediately. Clean sidewalks, doormen in crisp uniforms, people in business suits walking purposefully, their faces showing none of the desperate weariness she saw daily in the Bronx. Emma had brought Noah because she couldn't leave him with her grandmother, who lacked the strength to hold him for more than a few minutes. The baby's presence, she hoped, might also awaken compassion in those who saw them. After walking several blocks, receiving mostly averted gazes and occasional looks of disdain, Emma stopped outside a restaurant with large windows. Through the glass, she could see elegantly dressed people dining at tables adorned with fresh flowers and gleaming silverware. Her stomach cramped painfully at the sight of the food. Taking a deep breath, she pushed open the door and stepped inside. The hostess, a tall woman with a tight smile, immediately moved to intercept her. "Excuse me, but please," Emma whispered, clutching Noah closer. "I just need to ask something. Just 1 minute." Something in Emma's voice, not pleading but dignified despite her circumstances, made the hostess hesitate. In that moment of indecision, Emma slipped past her and approached a table where a man sat alone, scrolling through his phone while waiting for his meal. William Parker, CEO of Parker Innovations, was having a particularly frustrating day. At E42, he had built his tech company into a billion-dollar enterprise, but today's failed acquisition negotiations had put him in a foul mood. He looked up, annoyed at the interruption, to find a small girl with intelligent eyes standing before him, a baby strapped to her chest, both dressed in clean but visibly worn clothing. "Sir," Emma said, her voice steady despite the way her heart hammered in her chest. Would it be possible, when you're finished, could we have what's left on your plate? The question hung in the air. William stared at her, taken aback not just by the request, but by the dignity with which it was delivered. There was no self-pity in her eyes, no dramatic plea, just a direct question asked out of genuine need. The restaurant manager appeared at Emma's side. "I'm sorry, sir. I'll have security remove them immediately." William raised his hand, stopping the manager mid-sentence. "That won't be necessary." He looked at Emma more carefully now, noting her thin frame, the protective way she held the baby, and the unmistakable shadow of hunger in her eyes. "Sit down," he said, gesturing to the chair across from him. "Sir, our policy," the manager began. "I understand your policy," William cut him off, his voice carrying the authority of someone accustomed to being obeyed. "But these are my guests now." The manager retreated, and Emma carefully sat down, adjusting Noah in her arms. "What's your name?" William asked. "Emma Reynolds. And this is Noah. Is he your brother?" Emma hesitated. "He's family." William nodded, accepting her answer without pressing further. "I'm William Parker," he signaled to the waiter. "Please bring a children's menu," and he glanced at Noah. "Do you have something suitable for an infant?" "The chef can prepare a vegetable puree," the waiter offered. "Perfect, and please expedite my order." Emma looked at him, confusion evident on her face. "I didn't mean for you to buy us food, I just thought maybe what you didn't finish." William studied her for a moment. "Where are your parents, Emma?" "My mom left when I was little. I never knew my dad. I live with my grandmother in the Bronx, but she's sick and—" Emma trailed off, suddenly aware she had said too much. William's meal arrived, along with a smaller plate for Emma and a tiny bowl of pureed vegetables for Noah. Emma carefully fed Noah first, her movements practiced and gentle. Only when the baby had eaten did she turn to her own food, eating slowly and with a restraint that spoke of someone unaccustomed to regular meals. "Your grandmother, what's wrong with her?" William asked. "Her heart. She needs medicine that costs a lot, and she got tricked at the ATM last week, so we lost all our money for the month." Emma's matter-of-fact tone broke something inside William. Children her age should be worried about homework and friends, not medication costs and feeding babies. As they finished eating, William made a decision that would alter the course of multiple lives. "Emma, I'd like to help you and your grandmother and Noah. Would you let me do that?" Emma regarded him with a wariness born of hard experience. "Why would you want to help us?" It was a fair question, and one William wasn't entirely sure he could answer. Perhaps it was the directness in her eyes, or the care she showed for Noah, or simply the stark reminder of human fragility in a world where he had insulated himself with wealth and power. "Because I can," he said finally, "and because you had the courage to ask for what you needed." Emma considered his words carefully. In the Bronx, offers that seemed too good to be true usually were, but something about William Parker felt different. There was no condescension in his gaze, no performative pity, just a genuine offer extended, from one human being to another. "My grandma always says we should be careful with strangers," Emma said, "but she also says there are still good people in the world." She adjusted Noah in her arms, his small head now resting against her shoulder as he dozed. "I think maybe you're one of them." William felt an unexpected warmth at her tentative trust. "I hope to prove your grandmother right." As they left the restaurant together, neither could have predicted how completely their lives were about to change, or the challenges that awaited them as their worlds collided. For Emma, it was a desperate gamble born of necessity. For William, it was a moment of clarity in a life that had become defined by acquisition rather than connection. And for baby Noah, oblivious in his innocent slumber, it was the beginning of a future suddenly full of possibility. William Parker's custom-tailored suit felt suddenly out of place as he followed Emma up the narrow stairwell of the rundown apartment building in the Bronx. The elevator had been out of service for months, according to Emma, who climbed the 4 flights with practiced ease despite carrying Noah. William found himself slightly winded by the time they reached the landing. "Grandma might be sleeping," Emma whispered as she fumbled with the key. "She gets tired a lot." The apartment was small but meticulously clean. What struck William most wasn't what was there, but what wasn't. No television, no computer, minimal furniture, bare walls, save for a few carefully preserved photographs. The space spoke of dignity maintained in the face of scarcity. Martha Reynolds was not sleeping, but sitting up in bed, her face etched with worry that transformed into shock when she saw the tall, well-dressed stranger following her granddaughter through the door. "Emma, where have you been? And who is—" "Grandma, this is Mr. Parker, William. He bought us lunch and—" Emma rushed to explain, but Martha's expression had already hardened with suspicion. "Sir, I don't know what my granddaughter told you, but we don't accept charity. Whatever she asked from you—" "Mrs. Reynolds," William interrupted gently, "your granddaughter didn't ask for charity. She asked if she could have the leftovers from my plate after I finished eating. I was the one who offered more." He remained, standing near the door, conscious of being an intruder in their space. "Emma was protecting Noah and trying to help you. You should be proud of her resourcefulness." Martha's eyes softened slightly as she looked at Emma, who was now settling Noah into his makeshift crib. "I am proud, every single day." She turned back to William. "But I still don't understand why you're here." William chose his next words carefully. "Mrs. Reynolds, I'd like to help your family, not as charity, but as an investment in Emma's future, and Noah's." "We've managed this far on our own," Martha replied, though her voice lacked conviction. "Grandma," Emma said softly, "the medicine is almost gone, and the refrigerator is empty, and Noah needs formula." A heavy silence filled the room. Martha's pride warred visibly with her practical understanding of their situation. William sensed this was a pivotal moment. Push too hard and the door would close. Too little and the opportunity to help would slip away. "What exactly are you proposing, Mr. Parker?" Martha finally asked. "To start, I'd like to make sure you have food, medicine, and whatever Noah needs," William said. "Beyond that, I'd like to help Emma continue her education in a school that can challenge her. She's clearly bright." "I'm in 6th grade, Emma interjected. "I got accelerated last year." William smiled. "I'm not surprised." He turned back to Martha. "I'd also like to make sure you're seeing the right doctors for your heart condition." Martha's expression remained guarded. "And what do you expect in return for all this generosity?" The question wasn't unfair. In William's world, nothing came without expectations. But here, in this sparse apartment with these proud, struggling people, the normal rules of transaction seemed inadequate. "Nothing, Mrs. Reynolds, except perhaps the chance to get to know your family better." Martha studied him for a long moment, her eyes sharp despite her physical frailty. "Emma has good instincts about people. She must have seen something in you." She sighed. "We'll accept your help with the immediate needs, food and medicine. The rest we'll discuss." It was a small concession, but William recognized it for the significant gesture it was. That evening, William's driver delivered groceries, prescriptions, baby supplies, and a proper crib for Noah. William himself returned the following day and the day after that. Each visit revealed more about the remarkable family living in apartment 4B. He learned that Martha had been a teacher for 35 years before her health forced early retirement, that Emma had taught herself to read at age 4 and had a particular gift for mathematics. That Noah, despite his uncertain beginnings, was thriving under their care, hitting developmental milestones right on schedule. By the end of the week, William had arranged for Martha to see a leading cardiologist, enrolled Emma in a prestigious private school with a scholarship he quietly funded, and found a licensed daycare center for Noah that would allow Martha peace of mind and Emma the freedom to focus on her studies. Victoria Caldwell noticed the changes in William immediately. As the marketing director of Parker Innovations and William's sometime companion at social events, she prided herself on understanding him better than anyone. Lately, though, he had been cancelling dinner plans, missing charity galas, and being uncharacteristically vague about his whereabouts. "You've been distracted," she commented over lunch in his office, her tone casual but her eyes watchful. The board members noticed during yesterday's meeting. William looked up from the school brochure he'd been reviewing. "I've had some personal matters to attend to." "Personal matters? That's new for you." Victoria leaned forward, her perfectly manicured fingers adjusting her statement necklace. At 38, she had carefully cultivated her image as the sophisticated, ambitious professional, the perfect complement to William's corporate success. Their relationship remained undefined by mutual choice, but Victoria had long assumed it was moving towards something more permanent. "People change, Victoria. People like you don't change without reason." Her smile remained in place, but her eyes had cooled. "Is there someone new in your life I should know about?" William considered how to answer. The truth that he was increasingly preoccupied with the welfare of an 11-year-old girl, her ailing grandmother, and an abandoned baby would sound bizarre, even to his own ears. "I'm just reassessing some priorities," he said finally. Victoria's phone chimed with a notification. "The Henderson account," she murmured, scanning the message. "They're threatening to pull out if we don't meet their new terms." She looked up. "Whatever's distracting you, William, handle it quickly. We can't afford instability right now." As Victoria left his office, William turned back to the school brochure, thinking of Emma's face when he'd told her about the scholarship. Her initial excitement had quickly given way to practical concerns: the uniform cost, transportation logistics, whether she'd fit in with classmates from wealthy families. Even at 11, she thought, like someone who had learned that hope required careful management. That weekend, William took Emma, Martha, and Noah to Central Park. It was Martha's first significant outing in months, and though she tired quickly, the fresh air brought color to her cheeks. Emma pushed Noah's stroller, a new one William had provided, with a protective vigilance that both touched and troubled him. No child should bear such responsibility. They settled on a bench near the lake, watching model sailboats drift across the water. Noah gurgled happily in Martha's lap, fascinated by the patterns of light and shadow through the trees. "My daughter loved this park," Martha said unexpectedly, her gaze distant, "before the drugs took hold of her." William remained silent, sensing that Martha was sharing something important. She was brilliant, like Emma, full of potential. Martha stroked Noah's head gently. But she fell in with the wrong people in high school. By 20, she was addicted. By 23, she'd left Emma with me and disappeared. She looked directly at William. "That's why I worry about Emma getting opportunities that take her too far from her roots. I've seen what happens when the gap becomes too wide to bridge." William considered her words carefully. "I understand your concern, Mrs. Reynolds, but Emma deserves every opportunity." "Martha, please," she corrected him. "And yes, she does. But not at the cost of who she is." She paused. "Why are you really doing all this, William? And don't tell me it's nothing. No one does something for nothing." The question had been circling in William's own mind for days. His life had been defined by strategic decisions, clear objectives, measurable outcomes. This situation defied such parameters. "I've been successful beyond anything I could have imagined," he said slowly. "But lately I've been wondering what it's all for. Meeting Emma, seeing how she cares for you and Noah despite having so little herself. It reminded me that there are more important metrics for success than quarterly earnings." Martha's expression softened. "You're a surprising man, William Parker." "I surprise myself these days," he admitted. Emma returned from buying ice cream, carefully distributing the treats with a seriousness that made William smile. As they sat together on that park bench, the unlikely quartet of a corporate CEO, an ailing former teacher, a prematurely responsible child, and an abandoned baby, something shifted in William's understanding of family. For years, he had defined himself by what he had built and acquired. Now, watching Emma patiently help her grandmother with her ice cream, while keeping a watchful eye on Noah, he began to see that perhaps the most valuable things in life couldn't be earned or purchased at all. What he couldn't see was the familiar figure watching them from a distance, her expression calculating as she took photos with her phone. Victoria Caldwell had followed William, determined to discover what or who had been occupying his attention. What she found was more perplexing than a romantic rival would have been. As she zoomed in to capture the image of William Parker, titan of industry, gently wiping ice cream from a baby's chin, Victoria felt a cold certainty that whatever was happening here threatened everything she had worked for. And Victoria Caldwell had never been one to accept threats passively. Emma stood at the entrance of Westbrook Academy, clutching her new backpack with white knuckles, the imposing brick building with its manicured lawns and carefully tended flower. Bed seemed to belong to another world, one she had only glimpsed through library books and occasional television glimpses. Students streamed past her in their crisp uniforms, their easy confidence a stark contrast to the knot of anxiety in her stomach. "You've got this," William said, standing beside her. He had insisted on driving her himself for her first day, despite her protests that she could manage the subway. "What if they know," Emma whispered, voicing her deepest fear. "Know what?" "That I don't belong here, that I'm from the Bronx, that until last week I was wondering where our next meal would come from." William knelt to meet her eyes, unconcerned about the damage to his expensive suit pants. "Emma Reynolds, you belong anywhere your mind can take you. And from what I've seen, that's pretty much anywhere in the world." He straightened her already perfect tie. "Besides, you're the only sixth grader I know who can calculate compound interest in her head and change a diaper in under 30 seconds. The joke earned him a small smile. Emma took a deep breath and squared her shoulders. "Okay, I can do this." "Of course you can. I'll pick you up at 3:30. William watched her walk through the doors, her stride becoming more confident with each step. Only when she disappeared from view did he return to his car, where his driver waited. "Westbrook Academy costs more than some colleges," remarked Daniel, William's driver of 7 years, and perhaps the closest thing he had to a friend. "Must be some kid." "She is," William said simply, his mind already reviewing the meetings that awaited him at Parker Innovations. "Now let's see if I can focus on work for a change." But focus proved elusive. Throughout his morning meetings, William found himself wondering how Emma was faring with her new classmates, whether she was feeling overwhelmed by the advanced curriculum, if she was eating the lunch he had insisted on adding to her account. "William, are you with us?" Bernard Klein, the company's legal counsel, was staring at him expectantly along with the rest of the executive team. "Of course," William replied smoothly, though he had completely lost track of the discussion. "Please, continue." Victoria Caldwell, seated across the conference table, studied him with narrowed eyes. After the meeting, she followed him back to his office. "Who were they?" she asked without preamble, closing the door behind her. "Who?" "The old woman, the little girl and the baby, the ones you were with in Central Park on Saturday." William stiffened. "You were following me?" "I was concerned," Victoria countered. "You've been distracted, cancelling plans, leaving early. That's not like you, William. And now I find you playing happy families with strangers in the park." Her voice took on an edge. "What exactly is going on?" William considered his response carefully. Victoria was not only a key executive in his company, but also someone with whom he shared a complicated personal history. Their relationship had always been convenient rather than passionate. Two ambitious people who understood each other's priorities and respected each other's space, or so he had thought. "I'm helping a family that's fallen on hard times," he said finally. "The grandmother is ill, and the girl is exceptionally bright. I'm making sure she gets educational opportunities." "Since when do you involve yourself in charity cases personally? That's what your foundation is for." Victoria's perfectly sculpted eyebrows arched in disbelief. "You didn't even attend your own sister's baby shower last year because you had their conference call." "Maybe that's the problem," William replied, surprising himself with the admission. "Maybe I've had my priorities wrong for a long time." Victoria's expression shifted from incredulity to calculation. "You need to be careful, William. The board watches everything you do. A suddenly erratic CEO doesn't inspire investor confidence." "There's nothing erratic about helping people," William said, his tone hardening. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have calls to return. Victoria lingered at the door. Just remember who's been by your side all these years, William, who understands this world you've built. With that parting shot, she left, her heels clicking sharply against the marble floor. William turned to the window, Victoria's words echoing. Uncomfortably. She wasn't entirely wrong. The corporate world operated by certain rules, and his recent behavior was breaking several of them. But for the first time in years, he felt he might be doing something that mattered beyond quarterly reports and stock prices. His phone buzzed with a text message from the daycare center he had arranged for Noah. There was an attached photo of the baby sitting up on his own, grinning at the camera. William found himself smiling back at the image. Another buzz. This time a message from Martha, sent laboriously with arthritic fingers. Dr. Levine says new medication is working. Thank you. Small victories, but somehow they felt more significant than the major acquisition he had overseen last quarter. At precisely 3:25, William's car pulled up outside Westbrook Academy. He spotted Emma immediately, sitting alone on a bench, her face composed, but her posture revealing the tension she carried. When she saw his car, relief washed over her features. "How was it?" he asked as she slid into the back seat beside him. "Different," Emma said after a moment's consideration. "The math is easy, but they're already doing French, and I've never studied languages before. And at lunch," she trailed off. "What about lunch?" Emma shrugged, attempting nonchalance. "Nobody really talked to me. It's okay, though. I had a book." William felt a pang of guilt. He had been so focused on getting her into the school that he hadn't fully considered the social challenges she would face. "These things take time," he said, hoping it was true. "You'll make friends." Emma nodded, but her eyes told a different story. She had lived her entire young life as an outsider. The girl with no parents, the caretaker instead of the child, the poor student in a wealthy district. One prestigious school uniform couldn't change that overnight. When they arrived at the apartment, they found Martha in better spirits than she had been in weeks. The new medication was already easing her symptoms, and the home health aide William had arranged was helping with daily tasks, freeing Martha from the physical exertion that had been taxing her weakened heart. Noah crawled enthusiastically toward Emma when she entered, his face lighting up at the sight of her. For the first time that day, Emma smiled fully as she scooped him up. "He rolled from his back to his tummy 3 times today," the health aide reported, "and he's babbling more. Very advanced for his age." William watched as Emma immediately began telling Noah about her day, as if the baby could understand every word. Her ability to care for others despite her own struggles continued to amaze him. Later, as William helped Emma with her French homework at the small kitchen table, he found himself enjoying the simple domesticity of the moment. In his penthouse apartment with its minimalist design and spectacular views, he had every luxury but rarely experienced this kind of uncomplicated warmth. "Mr. Parker," Martha called from her room where she was resting, "will you stay for dinner? Rosa made extra pasta." The invitation was significant, a shift from accepting his help to welcoming his presence. "I'd like that," William replied, surprised by how much he meant it. Over the simple meal, William learned more about Martha's teaching career, Emma's favorite books, and Noah's emerging personality. The conversation flowed naturally, punctuated by Noah's occasional happy squeals and Martha's gentle reminiscences. "You never mention your own family, William," Martha observed as Emma cleared the dishes. William tensed slightly. "Not much to tell. My parents divorced when I was 12. My father remarried and started a new family in California. My mother lives in Connecticut, focused on her charity work. We're not close." "And no family of your own? No wife? Children?" "Never found the time," William answered, the familiar response sounding hollow even to his own ears. The truth was more complicated. His parents' acrimonious divorce had left him wary of emotional entanglements, and his single-minded focus on building his company had provided a convenient excuse to avoid deeper connections. "Time has a way of slipping past while we're busy with other things," Martha said, her gaze knowing. "Before you realize it, you're old, wondering where the years went." William nodded, acknowledging the gentle wisdom in her words. I'm beginning to understand that. When William finally prepared to leave, Emma walked him to the door. Thank you for today, she said formally, as if reciting a line she had rehearsed. For everything. You don't need to thank me, Emma. Grandma says we should always express gratitude. She hesitated, then added, the school is really nice. I'm going to work hard to deserve being there. The statement caught William off guard. You already deserve it, Emma. Never doubt that. As he drove back to Manhattan, William realized that something fundamental had shifted in his worldview. For years, he had operated on the principle that people received what they earned. Success was a direct result of effort and ability. But Emma's situation challenged that comfortable assumption. Her intelligence and determination were extraordinary. Yet without intervention, her circumstances would have limited her opportunities regardless of her merit. How many other Emmas were out there, he wondered, their potential untapped due to accidents of birth and circumstance? The following weeks established a new rhythm to William's life. Mornings at Parker Innovations, afternoons often spent with Emma, evenings sometimes shared with the impromptu family in the Bronx. He arranged for tutors to help Emma catch up in French and Latin, watched with pride as she began to excel in her classes and took satisfaction in seeing Martha's health gradually improve. Noah, too, was thriving. The pediatrician William had found pronounced him perfectly healthy and developing ahead of schedule. The mystery of his parentage remained, but as weeks passed with no word from Mrs. Wilson or the supposed mother, it became increasingly clear that the baby had been abandoned to Martha and Emma's care. At Parker Innovations, however, tensions were building. William's reduced hours and divided attention had not gone unnoticed. Victoria, in particular, had grown increasingly hostile, especially after William declined to accompany her to a major industry gala, an event they had attended together for the past 5 years. The board is concerned, she informed him coolly the following morning. Huang Enterprises is considering pulling their investment. The Henderson contract is still in limbo. And now there are rumors about your extracurricular activities. William's head snapped up. What rumors? Victoria's smile didn't reach her eyes. That William Parker, notorious workaholic and unsentimental businessman, has suddenly developed a soft spot for some charity case family. That he's neglecting his responsibilities to play daddy to a kid from the Bronx. She leaned forward. Is that true? Have you lost your edge, William? The accusation stung precisely because it reflected his own unspoken concern. Had he changed? Undoubtedly. Was it affecting his business judgment? He wasn't sure. My personal life is not the board's concern, he said firmly. It is when it impacts the company, Victoria countered. Everything was running perfectly before you started this, whatever it is. Charity project, midlife crisis? William stood abruptly. That's enough, Victoria. I appreciate your concern for the company, but I suggest you focus on your own department's performance rather than my personal choices. As Victoria stormed out, William felt the first stirrings of real concern. He had built Parker Innovations from nothing, pouring 20 years of his life into its success. The company employed thousands, developed technologies that improved. Lives represented everything he had achieved. Could he balance that responsibility with his growing commitment to Emma, Martha, and Noah? And beneath that practical concern lay a deeper question. If forced to choose between the life he had built and the unexpected connection he had found with this makeshift family, which would he sacrifice? October brought unseasonably heavy rains to New York City. Emma splashed through puddles on her way home from the bus stop, holding her umbrella against the wind. After 2 months at Westbrook Academy, she had settled into an uneasy routine, excelling academically but remaining on the periphery socially. She had made one friend, Zoe Chen, a quiet girl who shared her love of mathematics, but the gulf between Emma's life experience and that of her wealthy classmates remained difficult to bridge. As she climbed the stairs to apartment 4B, Emma heard Noah's delighted laughter mixed with a deeper, familiar voice. She smiled, quickening her pace. William had been visiting almost daily, often arriving before she returned from school. Her grandmother, initially wary, had gradually warmed to his presence. Noah, now 9 months old, lit up whenever William entered the room. "There she is," William announced as Emma entered. He was sitting on the floor with Noah, who was attempting to stack colorful blocks. "How was school?" "Good," Emma replied, setting down her backpack. "I got an A on my history paper about the Civil War." "Of course you did," Martha said proudly from her chair by the window. Her color was better these days, her breathing less labored. The specialist William had found had adjusted her medication, and she was following a carefully monitored treatment plan. William stood, brushing dust from his pants. Despite his formal business attire, he seemed increasingly comfortable in their modest apartment. "I thought we might celebrate your excellent grades with dinner out tonight. How does Italian sound?" Emma hesitated, glancing at her grandmother. Outings with William were still a source of conflicted feelings. On one hand, she enjoyed the experiences he offered. Restaurants, museums, bookstores filled with volumes. She could only dream of owning. On the other hand, she worried about becoming dependent on luxuries that could disappear as suddenly as they had appeared. "You three go," Martha encouraged. "Rosa will be here until 8, and I'm feeling tired." "Anyway, are you sure, Grandma, I can stay with you?" "Emma Reynolds," Martha said firmly. "You've spent enough evenings keeping an old woman company. Go enjoy yourself." An hour later, Emma found herself at Luciano's, an elegant but comfortable restaurant in Little Italy. Noah sat in a high chair, fascinated by the hanging lights and the basket of breadsticks William had placed within his reach. Emma was wearing one of the new outfits William had insisted on buying her, a simple blue dress that made her feel almost like she belonged in such surroundings. "I spoke with your French teacher yesterday," William mentioned as they studied the menus. "She says you've caught up completely. In fact, she thinks you might be ready for the advanced placement exam next year." Emma smiled, pleased by the praise but distracted. All day a question had been forming in her mind, and now it pressed forward, demanding voice. "William," she began, using his first name as he had repeatedly asked her to do, "why are you doing all this for us?" William set down his menu, giving her his full attention. "What do you mean?" "You've helped with Grandma's medicine and Noah's daycare and my school. You visit all the time. You buy us things." Emma twisted her napkin in her lap. "Nobody does this much without wanting something." The blunt question reflected the hard lessons of Emma's young life. In her experience, generosity usually came with strings attached. William considered his answer carefully. "Do you remember the day we met? What you asked me?" "If I could have the leftovers from your plate," Emma said softly. "Yes. And do you know what struck me about that question? You weren't begging. You weren't playing for sympathy. You were just asking directly for what you needed with dignity." William leaned forward. "In my world, Emma, that's rare. People spend most of their time trying to impress each other, pretending. They have everything figured out, hiding their real needs behind layers of social performance." He glanced at Noah, who was contentedly gumming a breadstick. "Meeting you, seeing how you care for Noah and your grandmother, despite having so little yourself, it made me realize how much I've been missing. Real connections, purpose beyond profit." Emma absorbed his words, her expression thoughtful beyond her years. "So we're like a project? To help you feel better about your life?" William winced at her perceptiveness. "No, at least not anymore." He ran a hand through his hair, a gesture Emma had come to recognize as a sign of his genuine emotion rather than his polished corporate persona. "Maybe at first I was just trying to help, or even trying to prove something to myself. But now..." "Now? What?" "Now you, Noah, and your grandmother matter to me. I care what happens to you." The admission felt both vulnerable and liberating. "Is that so hard to believe?" Before Emma could answer, William's phone vibrated. He glanced at it and frowned. "Excuse me for a moment. I need to take this." Emma watched as he stepped away from the table, his posture stiffening as he spoke. When he returned, his expression was troubled. "Everything okay?" she asked. "Just work," William replied, forcing a smile. "There's nothing for you to worry about." But there was plenty to worry about, as William well knew. Victoria Caldwell had escalated her campaign against his involvement with Emma's family. What had begun as concerned remarks had evolved into a coordinated effort to undermine his leadership. Board members were receiving anonymous emails detailing his erratic behavior and questionable associations. Major clients were expressing reservations about the company's stability. The Henderson contract, worth millions, had been officially cancelled that morning. William had built his reputation on being ruthlessly focused and emotionally detached, qualities that had served him well in business, but left him ill-equipped for the personal transformation he was experiencing. Now those same qualities were being weaponized against him by someone who knew his vulnerabilities intimately. Through the remainder of dinner, William maintained a cheerful facade for Emma's benefit, but his mind was racing with contingency. Plans? If Victoria's influence with the board continued to grow, he could face a leadership challenge. If key investors pulled out, the company's stock would plummet. The empire he had spent 2 decades building could crumble in a matter of weeks. As they drove back to the Bronx, Noah sleeping peacefully in the car seat William had installed, Emma studied his profile in the dim light. "You're worried about something?" she stated rather than asked. William glanced at her, once again struck by her perceptiveness. "Just some business complications." "Because of us?" Emma's voice was quiet but direct. "I heard you arguing on the phone last week. Someone was upset about the time you're spending with us." William considered deflecting but decided against it. Emma had faced enough harsh realities in her life to deserve honesty now. "Some people at my company don't understand why I've changed my priorities," he acknowledged. "But that's my problem to solve, not yours." Emma was silent for a long moment. "We could manage, you know. If you need to step back, Grandma's doing better and I can take care of Noah after school." The offer, made with such mature resignation, pierced William's heart. Emma was willing to return to her overburdened existence rather than cause him trouble. "That's not going to happen," he said firmly. "I'm not abandoning you, Emma. Not for business, not for anything." The conviction in his voice surprised even him. When had this makeshift family become so essential to his sense of self? Back at the apartment, Martha was already asleep. William helped Emma settle Noah in his crib, a proper one that had replaced the drawer where he once slept, and then paused at the door. "Emma, whatever happens with my company, I want you to know that meeting you and your family has been the best thing that's happened to me in a very long time. I won't let anything change that." Emma nodded solemnly. "I believe you." The simple statement of trust felt like both a gift and a responsibility. As William's car pulled away from the curb, he didn't notice the dark sedan parked half a block down, or the camera lens capturing his departure from the building. The following morning, the storm that had been building finally broke. William arrived at his office to find Bernard Klein, the company's legal counsel, waiting with a grave expression. "We have a situation," Bernard began without preamble. "The New York Business Journal is running a story about your personal involvement with a family in the Bronx. They're framing it as a potential ethical violation, suggesting you might be misusing company resources or showing questionable judgment." William's jaw tightened. "Who's their source?" "Anonymous, officially. But the details..." Bernard hesitated. "They could only have come from someone inside Parker Innovations. Someone with access to your schedule, your calls." "Victoria," William said flatly. "I'm not naming names," Bernard replied carefully. "But whoever it is has been thorough. They have photos of you at the apartment building, at restaurants with the family, even picking the girl up at Westbrook Academy. The article questions whether you've become emotionally compromised and suggests the board should consider temporary leadership while you sort out your personal issues." William felt cold anger rising. "This isn't about the company. This is about control." "Whatever it's about, it's serious," Bernard continued. "3 board members have already called me this morning. Henderson is citing this as validation of their decision to pull out, and Huang Enterprises has issued a statement expressing concern about leadership stability." The implications were clear. William's position, at the company he had founded was in jeopardy. All because he had dared to develop a genuine human connection outside the carefully controlled parameters of his previous existence. "What's your recommendation?" William asked, his voice steady despite his inner turmoil. Bernard sighed. "Professionally, distance yourself from this situation immediately. Issue a statement clarifying that your philanthropic interests remain separate from business operations. Attend the Singapore conference next week to reassure international partners." He paused. "Personally, I've known you for 15 years, William. I've never seen you care about anything beyond this company. If this family matters to you, fight for them, but understand what it might cost." William nodded, dismissing Bernard with a gesture. Alone in his office, he stared out at the Manhattan skyline, the empire of glass and steel that had defined his identity for so long. Then he pulled out his phone and looked at the most recent photo of Emma, Noah, and Martha, taken during their dinner at Luciano's. Their faces reflected something his success had never given him: belonging. The choice, he realized, had already been made. He just hadn't fully acknowledged it until now. His resolve was tested sooner than expected. That afternoon, as rain pounded against the windows of the Parker Innovations conference room, William faced the assembled board members. Victoria sat among them, her expression a careful mask of professional concern. "The company's stability must be our priority," she was saying. "William's recent behavior suggests he may need time to address personal matters. I propose a temporary leadership transition." "That won't be necessary," William interrupted, entering the room with measured confidence. "My personal commitments have not affected my ability to lead this company." "The Henderson contract suggests otherwise," remarked Judith Winters, the oldest board member. "And these news reports raise concerning questions." William met her gaze directly. "The Henderson contract was lost because they received a better offer from our competitors, information that Victoria was aware of, but apparently chose not to share." He turned to Victoria, whose composure briefly faltered, just as she chose not to mention that the anonymous source for those news reports was her own creation. A murmur ran through the room. Victoria's face flushed with anger. "That's an outrageous accusation." "Is it?" William placed a folder on the table. "These are records of communications between Victoria Caldwell and Jonathan Myers at the Business Journal. My security team obtained them this morning. They detail exactly how this story was constructed and what its intended purpose was." The boardroom fell silent as the implications sank in. Victoria's expression cycled through shock, rage, and finally, calculation. "Even if that were true," she said, recovering quickly, "it doesn't change the facts. You've been neglecting your responsibilities here to play savior to some random family. The girl isn't even related to you. The baby was abandoned." "Enough." William cut her off, his voice dangerously quiet. "My personal life is not subject to board approval. My professional performance, however, is fair game." He turned to address the full board. "Parker Innovations has increased market share by 12% this quarter. Our new tech division is outperforming projections by 17 million. And the Asia-Pacific expansion is proceeding ahead of schedule." He leaned forward, hands planted firmly on the table. "I founded this company. I've led it through recessions, tech bubbles, and market crashes. If any of you feel I'm no longer capable of that leadership, I invite you to review the performance metrics rather than listening to manufactured scandals." The tension in the room was palpable. Finally, Judith Winters spoke. "I think we've been hasty in our judgments, William. Perhaps we should table this discussion until the quarterly reports are finalized." The other board members murmured agreement, avoiding Victoria's furious gaze. As the meeting adjourned, William remained behind, facing Victoria across the now empty conference table. "You won't get away with this," she hissed. "Those people are using you. Can't you see that? They saw an opportunity, and they're exploiting it for all it's worth." William regarded her with something approaching pity. "Is it so impossible for you to believe that people might form connections that aren't based on exploitation? That's a sad worldview, Victoria." "It's a realistic worldview," she snapped. "One you used to share." "Perhaps that's why I was as unhappy as you are," William replied quietly. Victoria gathered her papers with sharp, angry movements. "This isn't over. You've embarrassed me in front of the board, but there are other ways to make you see reason." The threat hung in the air as she stalked out, leaving William alone with the realization that he had neutralized one challenge only to potentially create a more dangerous enemy. His phone chimed with a weather alert. The persistent rain had intensified, and flood warnings were being issued for several areas, including parts of the Bronx. William tried calling Emma's cell phone, a recent gift to help them stay in touch, but received no answer. The knot of worry in his stomach tightened as he tried Martha's number, with the same result. Outside, the sky had darkened to an ominous grey-black, rain sheeting down with increasing ferocity. William grabbed his coat and headed for the elevator, a sense of foreboding growing with each unanswered call. As his car navigated the increasingly treacherous streets toward the Bronx, news reports confirmed his fears. Flash flooding was occurring in multiple boroughs, with particular concern for low-lying areas near the river. Areas exactly like the neighborhood where Emma, Martha, and Noah lived. The Bronx streets had transformed into rushing rivers by the time William's car reached the neighborhood. Abandoned, vehicles sat half-submerged along Morris Avenue, their hazard lights blinking helplessly against the deluge. Daniel, William's driver, slowed to a crawl as the water deepened around the tires. "We can't go much further, sir," Daniel warned, his knuckles white on the steering wheel. "Another block, and we risk flooding the engine." Through the rain-streaked windows, William could see emergency vehicles with flashing lights several blocks ahead, their sirens adding to the chaos of the storm. His phone displayed another attempt to reach Emma, still unsuccessful. "Pull over here," William instructed, already removing his suit jacket. "Wait for me if you can. If the water rises further, get to higher ground and call me when you're safe." "Sir, the police are evacuating this area. You shouldn't—" "I need to find them, Daniel." Something in William's voice silenced further objections. Daniel nodded grimly. "Be careful, sir." The moment William stepped out of the car, the full force of the storm hit him. Rain pelted sideways, driven by gusting winds that made his shirt cling to his skin within seconds. The water on the street was already ankle-deep and rising, carrying debris from overflowing storm drains. William waded forward, orienting himself toward the familiar apartment building 4 blocks away. Around him, residents hurried in the opposite direction, many carrying children, or dragging hastily packed bags. A police officer with a megaphone was directing people toward evacuation buses. "Sir, you need to head toward the buses." The officer shouted when he spotted William moving against the flow of evacuees. "I'm looking for a family in building 1223. William called back, having to raise his voice against the howling wind. "An elderly woman, a young girl, and a baby." "That building's being evacuated now. If they're not out yet, emergency services will get them." The officer gestured emphatically toward the buses. "This area is flooding rapidly. You need to leave." William hesitated only briefly before continuing forward. If Emma, Martha, and Noah were already safely evacuated, he would find them at the shelter. If not, the thought spurred him to move faster, pushing against the current that now reached mid-calf. By the time he reached the apartment building, the water level outside had risen to his knees, and he could see it seeping into the ground floor. The building's lobby was in chaos. Residents descended the stairs in a steady stream, carrying whatever possessions they could manage. A firefighter was helping an elderly man down the last few steps. "I'm looking for the Reynolds family," William said, approaching the firefighter. "Apartment 4B, an older woman with heart problems, a girl and an infant." The firefighter shook his head. "4th floor is being cleared now. Haven't seen anyone matching that description come down yet." He eyed William's drenched business attire. "You family?" "Yes," William answered without hesitation. "I need to get up there." "Sir, we're handling the evacuation. If you'll just—" William was already pushing past, taking the stairs 2 at a time. The stairwell was crowded with descending residents, many looking frightened and disoriented. He pressed himself against the wall to allow them passage while continuing upward. The 4th floor hallway was eerily quiet compared to the commotion below. William moved quickly to apartment 4B, finding the door unlocked, a worrying sign. Inside, the apartment was dimly lit, the electricity apparently affected by the storm. "Emma? Martha?" William called out, water dripping from his clothes onto the worn carpet. "William?" Emma's voice came from Martha's bedroom, tight with fear but controlled. "In here." He found them in the bedroom, where Martha lay on the bed, her breathing labored and her face ashen. Emma stood beside her, one hand on her grandmother's forehead, the other clutching Noah to her chest. The baby was unusually quiet, as if sensing the gravity of the situation. "The building's being evacuated," William said, moving quickly to Martha's side. "The streets are flooding. We need to get you all out of here." "I tried to get Grandma ready," Emma explained, her voice steady despite the fear in her eyes. "But she got dizzy when she stood up and then she couldn't catch her breath. I was afraid to move her." William gently took Martha's wrist, noting her rapid, irregular pulse. Her medication and oxygen were nearby. Emma had clearly been trying to stabilize her condition. "Martha," he said gently, "we need to get you to safety. The building isn't safe right now." Martha's eyes fluttered open, recognition dawning as she focused on him. "William, you came." "Of course I came." He squeezed her hand. "Can you walk if I help you?" Martha tried to sit up but fell back with a gasp. "I don't think so." William made a quick decision. "Emma, gather any critical medications and Noah's essentials. We have minutes, not hours." As Emma moved with practiced efficiency, William called Daniel. "I found them, but we need medical evacuation. Martha can't walk and the water's rising." He listened briefly. "Understood. We'll be on the roof." He turned to Emma, who had filled a small backpack with medications, Noah's formula, and a few diapers. "Change of plans. The streets are too flooded for an ambulance. We're going to the roof for helicopter evacuation." Emma's eyes widened, but she nodded, her trust in him evident. William carefully lifted Martha, who felt alarmingly light in his arms. Her breathing was shallow, her skin cool to the touch despite the humid air. "Emma, lead the way. Stay close." The key. Hallway was now completely deserted, emergency lighting casting eerie shadows on the walls. The stairwell beyond the fourth floor was rarely used and poorly maintained, but it offered their only route to the roof. Emma climbed steadily, Noah secured against her chest, the backpack bouncing against her shoulders. William followed, each step careful as he carried Martha's fragile form. By the time they reached the roof access door, his arms were burning with exertion, but his grip remained sure. The roof was a flat expanse of tar and gravel, offering a panoramic view of the disaster unfolding across the borough. Streets had disappeared beneath muddy water that continued to rise. In the distance, emergency lights pulsed through the rain, and the occasional spotlight from rescue helicopters swept across darkened buildings. "Over here," William directed, moving toward the center of the roof where they would be most visible. "Emma, take out your phone. Turn on the flashlight function and wave it when you hear a helicopter." They waited in the punishing rain, William sheltering Martha as best he could with his body, Emma holding Noah beneath her jacket while scanning the sky. Minutes stretched interminably, marked only by Martha's increasingly labored breaths and the steady drumming of rain. William's phone rang. Daniel. "The emergency services are overwhelmed," his driver reported. "It could be hours before they reach your location." William made another call, this one to a number few people possessed. "Jason, it's William Parker. I need the company helicopter at coordinates I'm sending now. Medical emergency. Yes, I understand the risk. Double the pilot's fee, triple it if necessary." Emma looked at him with a mixture of hope and uncertainty. "Is someone coming?" "Yes," William assured her, though he knew the corporate helicopter wasn't designed for rescue operations, especially in these conditions. "Help is coming." They huddled together as the storm continued its assault. Martha drifted in and out of consciousness, each period of awareness shorter than the last. Noah remarkably remained calm, his small body warm against Emma's chest. "William," Emma said suddenly, her voice barely audible above the wind, "if something happens, Say if Grandma doesn't— Don't, William interrupted firmly. Your grandmother is going to be fine. We're all going to be fine. Emma nodded, but her eyes held the knowledge of someone who had learned early that reassurances didn't always translate to reality. But if something does happen, promise me Noah won't end up in the system. Promise you'll make sure he's okay. The request struck William with the force of a physical blow. Even now, facing her own possible loss, Emma's concern was for the abandoned child she had taken as her own. I promise, Emma. But nothing's going to happen to your grandmother, or to you, or to Noah. He placed his free hand on her shoulder, feeling her small frame tremble beneath his touch. We're a family now, all of us, and I protect my family. The word hung between them, fragile and powerful. Family, not by blood or law, but by choice and circumstance, and something deeper that defied easy definition. 20 minutes later, they heard it, the rhythmic thump of helicopter blades cutting through the storm. Emma immediately began waving her phone's light in wide arcs above her head. The sound grew louder, and then the helicopter appeared, its searchlight sweeping the rooftops until it found them. The Parker Innovations logo was visible on the helicopter's side as it hovered, fighting the crosswinds to maintain position. A rescue harness was lowered, followed by a medically equipped basket stretcher. Emma first with Noah, William shouted above the rotor noise, helping her secure the baby and then herself into the harness. He watched, heart in his throat as they were lifted into the hovering aircraft. The basket came next. With infinite care, William transferred Martha onto it, securing the straps across her still form. As the basket was raised, William caught a final glimpse of Martha's face, pale but peaceful, as if she had surrendered to forces beyond her control. When the harness returned for him, William didn't hesitate. The ascent was rough, the helicopter buffeted by unpredictable gusts that made the harness swing alarmingly. Rain lashed at him, nearly blinding him until strong hands reached down to pull him into the aircraft's relative safety. Inside, he found Emma holding Noah tightly while a paramedic, apparently part of the helicopter crew, worked on Martha. The interior was cramped, not designed for medical transport, but the pilot had clearly made emergency accommodations. How is she? William asked, moving to Emma's side. The paramedic glanced up from attaching an oxygen mask to Martha's face. Pulse is weak but steady. Oxygen saturation is low. She needs a hospital ASAP. We're heading to Mount Sinai, the pilot's voice came through the headset William had been handed. 8 minutes out. Weather's causing some delays, but they're expecting us. William nodded his thanks, then turned to Emma. Her clothes were soaked, her hair plastered to her head, but her eyes were clear and focused on her grandmother. You did everything right, he told her, wrapping an emergency blanket around her shoulders, getting her medication, keeping Noah safe, being ready when help arrived. Emma leaned against him, the gesture more eloquent than words. Noah, sensing the shift in tension, had fallen asleep. In her arms, his small chest rising and falling in peaceful rhythm. The helicopter banked sharply, beginning its approach to the hospital helipad. Below them, the city lights glimmered through the rain, a constellation of human resilience against the storm's fury. We're going to be okay, Emma said quietly, an echo of William's earlier reassurance. But her words carried a question too, a need for confirmation that this fragile thing they had built together would survive. Yes, William answered, his arm tightening around her shoulders. We are. The hospital erupted into action the moment they landed. Martha was whisked away to the cardiac unit, accompanied by a team of specialists alerted by William's advance call. Emma, Noah, and William were led to a private waiting area, where dry clothes had already been arranged. Another result of William's influence. Hours passed in the sterile quiet of the hospital. Noah was examined and pronounced healthy despite the ordeal. Emma refused to leave the waiting area even to change, insisting on remaining where news of her grandmother would come first. It was past midnight when the doctor finally appeared, her face revealing nothing as she approached. Mr. Parker, I'm Dr. Lynn, cardiology. William stood, Emma immediately at his side. How is she? Mrs. Reynolds experienced acute heart failure. exacerbated by stress and exposure, Dr. Lin explained. We've stabilized her condition, but she'll need to remain hospitalized for at least a week. After that, she'll require significant changes to her living situation: a ground floor residence or building with reliable elevator service, minimal physical exertion, regular medical monitoring. Emma's hand found William's, her fingers cold but her grip strong. But she'll recover. Dr. Lin's expression softened as she addressed Emma directly. Your grandmother is remarkably resilient. With proper care, yes, she should recover, but her heart has sustained damage. Her condition will require management for the rest of her life. The prognosis hung in the air, not a death sentence, but a fundamental restructuring of Martha's future, and by extension, Emma's and Noah's as well. Can we see her? Emma asked. Briefly, Dr. Lin agreed. She's conscious but very weak. Try not to excite her. Martha lay amid a tangle of monitoring equipment, her small frame nearly lost in the hospital bed. Her eyes were closed when they entered, but they opened at the sound of Emma's footsteps. There you are, Martha whispered, her voice barely audible above the beeping machines. All my treasures, safe and sound. Emma moved to the bedside, carefully, taking her grandmother's hand. The doctor says you're going to be okay, Grandma. You just need to rest. Martha's gaze shifted to William, who stood slightly behind Emma, with Noah sleeping against his shoulder. You found us in the storm. I'll always find you, William replied simply. A ghost of a smile touched Martha's lips. I believe you. Her eyes drifted to Noah, then back to Emma. My brave girl, always taking care of everyone. Not anymore, Emma said with a glance back at William. Now we have help. Martha's eyes were already closing, exhaustion claiming her, but her fingers tightened briefly around Emma's. Family, she murmured. We have family. As they left Martha to rest, a nurse approached with a clipboard of forms. Mr. Parker, there's the matter of Mrs. Reynolds's admission paperwork, and the child hospital policy requires documentation of guardianship for minors admitted without parents. The bureaucratic reminder of their unusual situation felt jarring after the life-and-death intensity of the past hours. Emma tensed beside him, the spectre of official scrutiny raising all her old fears about Noah's precarious status. William placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. I'll handle the paperwork. Emma, why don't you and Noah get some rest in the family room? I'll join you soon. As the nurse led him toward the administration office, William made a series of calls to his lawyer, to his assistant, to contacts in city government. By morning, temporary guardianship arrangements would be in place. Martha's medical care would be fully covered, and the foundations would be laid for more permanent solutions. In the quiet family room, he found Emma curled on a sofa with Noah, nestled against her. Both were finally sleeping, their faces peaceful in repose. William settled into a chair opposite them, watching over his makeshift family as the storm gradually spent its fury against the hospital windows. Outside, the city that had nearly taken them from him was beginning its slow recovery. Inside, William Parker, who had spent a lifetime building walls around himself, found that when those walls finally crumbled, what rushed in wasn't destruction, but possibility. Emma stirred, her eyes opening to find him watching. You're still here, she murmured, voice thick with sleep. I'm still here, William confirmed, and I'm not going anywhere. She nodded, already drifting back towards sleep, but not before whispering the question that had been building between them through floodwaters and hospital corridors and the spaces between heartbeats. Why are you doing all this? The truth this time. William's answer came without hesitation, simple and transformative, because you showed me what real love looks like. In that moment, as dawn began to lighten the horizon beyond the rain-washed windows, William understood that he had not saved this family. They had saved him. Spring arrived in New York with a gentle persistence, coaxing pale green buds from tree branches that had stood bare throughout the harsh winter. In the sunroom of a brownstone in Brooklyn Heights, Martha Reynolds sat in a comfortable chair, sunlight warming her face as she sorted through a basket of yarn. At 70, Her hands showed the familiar swelling of arthritis, but they moved, with purpose as she selected colors for her latest project. "Grandma, have you seen my science notebook?" Emma called from the hallway, her footsteps quick and light on the hardwood floors. "Check the dining room table," Martha replied. "You were working on that solar system model last night." Emma appeared in the doorway, a whirlwind of energy at, almost 12 years old. The past 6 months had transformed her, not just physically as she grew taller and began to leave childhood behind, but in subtler ways. The wariness that had once shadowed her eyes had softened. She still carried responsibility beyond her years, but it no longer bent her shoulders with its weight. "Found it," she announced triumphantly, waving the notebook. "William's picking me up in 10 minutes. We're going to the planetarium after school for research." Martha smiled at her granddaughter's enthusiasm. "Make sure Noah's lunch is packed for daycare. And don't forget your medication, I know." Emma crossed the room to kiss Martha's cheek. "Second shelf in the refrigerator with the blue label. William already set the reminder on his phone and yours." The sound of small feet padding down the hall heralded Noah's arrival. At 15 months he was walking confidently, his chubby face alight with the joy of newfound mobility. He made a beeline for Emma, arms raised in silent demand. "Hey, little guy," Emma said, scooping him up with practiced ease. "Ready for daycare? Miss Sophia said you were stacking blocks 6 high yesterday. That's pretty impressive." Noah babbled, happily in response, his vocabulary still limited but his comprehension growing daily. Emma carried him to the kitchen, continuing their one-sided conversation about the day ahead. Martha watched them go, marveling at how completely their lives had transformed since the night of the flood. The hospital stay had lasted 2 weeks. Rather than the predicted one, her heart requiring more intensive treatment than initially thought. During that time, William Parker had moved mountains. The brownstone where they now lived had been purchased and renovated specifically to accommodate Martha's needs. No stairs to navigate, wider doorways for the occasional wheelchair days, a state-of-the-art security system, and a garden that bloomed even in early spring. It was more luxury than Martha had ever imagined for herself, but she had come to accept it not as charity, but as an expression of the family they were creating. Together. The doorbell rang, followed by the sound of a key in the lock. William had insisted they all have keys to what he called our home, though he maintained his Manhattan penthouse for late work nights and business meetings. "Good morning," William called, his footsteps approaching the sunroom. He appeared in the doorway, impeccably dressed as always, but with a relaxed demeanor that had been absent when they first met him. "How are you feeling today, Martha?" "Better than a woman my age has any right to," she replied with a smile. "Dr. Patel says my numbers are improving, though I suspect that has less to do with medicine and more to do with peace of mind." William nodded, understanding the deeper meaning behind her words. Before he could respond, Emma appeared with Noah in one arm and her backpack slung over the opposite shoulder. "Ready," she announced. "Noah's lunch is packed, and I made sure." "Grandma has her phone and emergency button within reach." "Excellent work, as always," William replied, taking Noah from her arms. The baby immediately grabbed his tie, a daily ritual that William pretended to protest but secretly enjoyed. "And how's my little businessman today? Planning any hostile takeovers at daycare?" Noah's delighted giggle filled the room, a sound that never failed to lighten the atmosphere. William gently disentangled his tie from the baby's grip and handed him back to Emma. "We should get going if we're going to drop Noah off and get you to school on time," he said. "Martha, Rosa will be here at 10 for your physical therapy, and I've arranged for lunch delivery at noon." Martha waved them off with fond exasperation. "I managed a classroom of 30 kindergarteners for 35 years. I think I can handle a morning alone." "Of course you can," William agreed, "but humor me anyway." After they left, Martha sat in the quiet sunroom, reflecting on the journey that had brought them here. The legal processes had been complex, establishing William as Noah's legal guardian, ensuring Emma's educational future, creating a trust for Martha's medical needs. But the emotional journey had been even more intricate, as 4 disparate individuals learned to function as a unit, their lives interwoven by choice rather than obligation. Victoria Caldwell had made one final attempt to discredit William, leaking details of his unofficial adoption of a welfare family to several prominent business publications. The story had indeed run, but with an unexpected twist. Instead of scandal, the media had framed it as a heartwarming tale of corporate responsibility and personal redemption. William Parker, the ruthless businessman, had revealed a human side that resonated with the public. Martha smiled at the memory of Victoria's face when William had appointed her to lead the company's new community engagement division, a role that effectively sidelined her from core operations, while making it impossible for her to decline without appearing petty. It was the kind of elegant solution that revealed William's strategic mind, while also demonstrating his growth beyond mere retaliation. The doorbell rang, interrupting Martha's reflections. Rosa wasn't due for another hour, and deliveries usually came to the service entrance. Curious, Martha used her cane to steady herself as she moved to answer the door. The woman standing on the porch was elegantly dressed, her silver hair styled in an expensive bob, her posture suggesting someone accustomed to authority. She appeared to be in her early 70s, with features that struck Martha as vaguely familiar. "May I help you?" Martha asked. The woman hesitated, seeming to gather her composure. "I'm Elizabeth Parker, William's mother. I believe he's mentioned me." Martha's surprise must have shown on her face, because Elizabeth added quickly, "He doesn't know I'm here. I wanted to meet you first." "I see." Martha studied the woman more carefully, recognizing now the resemblance to William, the same direct gaze, the same set of the jaw. "Would you like to come in?" Elizabeth followed Martha to the living room, her eyes taking in the surroundings with keen assessment. Family photos lined the mantel, Emma holding Noah at the park, William teaching Emma to play chess, Martha reading to Noah, and one particularly cherished image of all four of them at Thanksgiving. "It's a lovely home," Elizabeth commented, seating herself with the careful precision of someone unsure of their welcome. "William made sure of that," Martha replied, settling into her own chair. "May I ask what brings you here today, Mrs. Parker?" "Elizabeth, please." She paused, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. "I've been following William's life from a distance for many years. We haven't been close since his father and I divorced." Martha nodded, knowing from William's rare mentions of his parents that the split had been acrimonious, with William caught in the middle of two strong-willed people who had weaponized their son's affection in their battle against each other. "When I heard about what happened after the flood, about you and the children, I was surprised," Elizabeth continued. "William has always kept people at a distance. Even as a boy after the divorce, he withdrew, built walls." She looked directly at Martha. "I've often wondered if that was our fault, his father's and mine." "Children are resilient," Martha said gently, "but they learn from what they see. If love is presented as a battleground, they may decide it's safer not to engage at all." Elizabeth's composure wavered slightly. "Yes, I fear that's exactly what happened." She took a breath. "When I saw the news stories about William's new family, about all of you, I didn't believe it at first. It seemed so unlike him." "People can surprise you," Martha observed, "especially when they find something worth changing for." "That's why I'm here," Elizabeth admitted. "I'd like to meet I'm not sure what to call them. My grandchildren. Is that presumptuous of me?" The question hung in the air, laden with decades of estrangement and newfound hope. Martha considered the woman before her, proud but vulnerable, reaching across a chasm of her own making. "William will be picking Emma up from school at 3:30, Martha said finally. He usually comes straight home. Noah returns from daycare around 4. If you'd like to wait, you could meet them all." Relief softened Elizabeth's features. "I would like that very much." The hours that followed were filled with cautious conversation that gradually warmed as the two women discovered shared interests in education and gardening. Elizabeth, it turned out, had been a university professor before retiring to focus on philanthropic work. She asked thoughtful questions about Emma's academic progress and Noah's development, showing genuine interest in their lives. By the time the front door opened at 3:45, Martha had formed a favorable impression of William's mother, a woman who had made mistakes, but seemed sincerely interested in redemption. "Grandma, you won't believe what happened in science class today." Emma called as she entered, her voice trailing off as she registered the presence of a stranger. William appeared behind her, freezing in the doorway when he recognized the visitor. "Mother," he said, his tone carefully neutral. "This is unexpected." Elizabeth stood, her composure faltering slightly under her son's guarded gaze. "William, I hope you don't mind. I wanted to meet your family." Emma looked between them, quickly assessing the situation with her characteristic perceptiveness. "You're William's mom, I'm Emma." She stepped forward, offering her hand with a poise that made Martha proud. "It's nice to meet you." The simple courtesy broke the tension. Elizabeth took Emma's hand, her smile genuine. "It's wonderful to meet." "You too, Emma. Your grandmother has been telling me about your accomplishments at school. Quite impressive." William remained by the door, his expression unreadable. Martha caught his eye, offering a slight nod of encouragement. After a moment's hesitation, he moved into the room. "How did you find us?" he asked his mother. "I have my resources," Elizabeth replied, then softened. "Actually, your assistant might have helped. I can be quite persuasive when necessary." William's eyebrow raised slightly, a gesture Emma had recently begun to mimic. "I'll need to speak with her about security protocols." "Don't be too hard." "On her," Elizabeth said. "Family is a compelling argument." The word hung between them, weighted with history and possibility. Emma, sensing the undercurrents, took charge of the situation with her usual practicality. "We're going to pick up Noah from daycare soon. Would you like to come with us, Mrs. Parker? He's really cute and he just learned to say book and more and up." Elizabeth glanced at William, seeking permission. After a moment, he nodded slightly. "We'll take my car. There's a car seat, installed already." The outing to the daycare center marked the beginning of a careful reconciliation. Elizabeth proved to be a natural with Noah, who was initially shy but quickly warmed to her when she produced a small wooden toy from her purse, a carved elephant that had once belonged to William as a child. "You kept that?" William asked, watching his mother show Noah how the elephant's trunk moved up and down. "I kept everything," Elizabeth replied quietly. "Every school report, every photograph, every memory." Over dinner, which Elizabeth had been invited to join, the conversation gradually eased into more comfortable rhythms. Emma entertained them with stories from school, while Noah charmed everyone with his attempts to feed himself spaghetti. William remained somewhat reserved, but his defenses had lowered perceptibly. As the evening drew to a close, Elizabeth helped Emma clear the table, an unexpectedly domestic task for a woman who had likely employed household staff for most of her life. "Will you visit again?" Emma asked, handing Elizabeth a plate to dry. Elizabeth glanced toward the living room where William was speaking quietly with Martha. "I'd like to, if it's all right with everyone." "I think it would be good," Emma said, with the directness that was so characteristically hers. "William doesn't talk about his family much, but I think he misses having one. A real one, I mean." Elizabeth regarded the young girl thoughtfully. "You're very wise for your age, Emma." "That's what Grandma says." "But I'm just saying what I see." Emma placed the last dish in the cabinet. "Everyone should have a family, even grown-ups like William." In the living room, a parallel conversation was unfolding. "Your mother seems sincere," Martha observed, watching William's profile as he gazed out the window. "She always did have impeccable manners," he replied, a trace of old bitterness in his tone. "It's more than manners," Martha countered, gently. "She kept your childhood toys, William. She follows your career. She's here, reaching out." William turned to face her, his expression troubled. After 20 years of silence. "Better late than never," Martha held his gaze. "Trust me. On this, I've lived long enough to know that few regrets cut deeper than the connections we fail to mend when we have the chance." Before William could respond, Emma and Elizabeth returned from the kitchen. Noah had fallen asleep on the sofa, his small body curled around the wooden elephant. "I should be going," Elizabeth said, gathering her purse. "Thank you for allowing me to intrude on your evening." William walked his mother to the door, their conversation too quiet for the others to hear. When he returned, his expression was thoughtful. "Is she coming back?" Emma asked directly. "Sunday," William replied. "For lunch." The months that followed brought gradual but significant changes to their expanding family circle. Elizabeth became a regular visitor, eventually establishing a genuine bond with Emma, who appreciated her extensive knowledge of art and literature. With Noah, Elizabeth discovered a playful side of herself long suppressed by social expectations and professional demands. Her relationship with William evolved more slowly, decades of distance not easily overcome. But as summer approached, their interactions became noticeably warmer, marked by inside jokes and shared references that hinted at healing old wounds. William's professional life had also transformed. Parker Innovations had launched a major initiative focused on educational technology for underserved communities, a project inspired directly by his experiences with Emma. The company's philanthropic footprint had expanded, now including substantial funding for heart research and family support services. Most significant, however, was the change in William himself. The driven, isolated executive had given way to a man who regularly left work by 5 to attend Emma's school events or take Noah to the park. His management style had softened, allowing more collaborative decision-making and a healthier company culture. Employees who had once feared his exacting standards now appreciated his newfound balance of excellence and humanity. On a warm June evening, as golden light streamed through the windows of the brownstone, William called a family meeting in the living room. Martha, Emma, and Noah gathered with curious expressions, while William remained standing, uncharacteristically nervous. "I have something important to discuss with all of you," he began. "As you know, legally speaking, our situation is unconventional. Noah is under my guardianship. Emma is in Martha's care, and we're all living together by mutual agreement." Emma's face showed immediate concern. "Is something wrong? Are they trying to separate us?" "No, nothing like that," William assured her quickly. "Quite the opposite, actually." He took a deep breath. "I've been working with my lawyers to create a more permanent arrangement. If you all agree, I'd like to formally adopt Noah." Noah, playing on the floor with blocks, looked up at the sound of his name, offering a sunny smile that tugged at everyone's hearts. "And Emma," William continued, his voice softer now, "I'd like to become your legal guardian as well. Martha would remain your grandmother and legal parent, but I would share responsibility for your care and future." Emma's eyes widened. "You want to adopt me too?" "In essence, yes," William replied, "but only if that's what you want. This would be your decision entirely." Emma was silent for a long moment, processing the implications. Would I call you Dad?" The question caught William off guard, emotion making his voice rough. "You could call me whatever feels right to you, Emma. William is fine. But if you wanted to call me Dad someday, I would be honored." Martha watched her granddaughter closely, ready to support whatever decision she made. Emma had faced so many adult choices in her young life. This was perhaps the most significant yet. Emma looked from William to Martha, then to Noah, who had abandoned his blocks to toddle toward her. She gathered the baby into her arms, a gesture that had become second nature. "I think," she said slowly, "that Noah needs a dad. And I do too." Her voice grew stronger with certainty. "So yes, I want you to be our dad." The word hung in the air, simple yet profound in its implications. William crossed the room and knelt before Emma and Noah, his usual corporate composure, nowhere in evidence as he gathered them both into a careful embrace. "Thank you," he whispered, the words inadequate for the gift he had been given. Martha discreetly wiped a tear from her cheek, witnessing the healing of wounds across generations, Emma's abandonment, Noah's uncertain beginnings, William's emotional isolation. In this moment of connection, the broken pieces of 3 separate lives were reforming into something stronger and more beautiful than their original state. The following weekend brought another milestone. Elizabeth arrived for her now regular Sunday visit, this time accompanied by a photographer William had commissioned. The family gathered in the garden, which was in full bloom, for their first official portrait. As they arranged themselves against a backdrop of roses and ivy, William with Noah on his hip, Emma standing between William and Martha, Elizabeth, positioned slightly to Martha's side, the photographer called for them to hold still. In that suspended moment, with late afternoon sunlight gilding their faces, William looked at the unlikely constellation of people who had become his family. Martha, whose wisdom had guided them through the transition from strangers to kin. Emma, whose courage and compassion had cracked open his carefully guarded heart. Noah, whose innocent trust reminded them daily of life's simple joys. Even his mother, Elizabeth, finding her way back to connection after years of estrangement. "Everyone say family," the photographer instructed. As the shutter clicked, capturing their image for posterity, William realized that the word no longer represented an abstract concept or a business obligation. Family had become his reality, messy, challenging, and infinitely more fulfilling than the empire of acquisition he had built before. The photograph would eventually take pride of place in the brownstone's entryway, a visual testament to the truth that family isn't always created by blood or birth. Sometimes it forms in the most unexpected circumstances, a chance encounter in a restaurant, a desperate plea from a child protecting her own, a man discovering that his capacity for love was greater than he had ever imagined. A portrait not just of four people smiling for a camera, but of a profound truth. That family in its truest sense is what we create when we choose each other day after day, through storms both literal and figurative, building something that can withstand the most powerful forces life brings against. As summer deepened around their Brooklyn home, William Parker, once defined solely by what he possessed, found himself redefined by what he had given, his heart. His name, his future, all offered to three people who had shown him what it meant to belong. And Emma Reynolds, who had once asked for mere leftovers from a stranger's plate, discovered that sometimes the universe returns our small acts of courage.